24/7 News, where the story goes, we go.
Stay up to date with LN 24/7. LN 24/7. With news, politics, business, sports, and more on LN 24/7. Where the story goes, we go.
LN 24/7 is first of all a news station.
We'll continue with updates from the just concluded governorship
in the southeast has raised questions if INEC will be able to conduct elections.
With a core team of over 40 correspondents spread across Nigeria.
Nigeria is set to take its place.
The unions of aviation workers are out here protesting.
And affiliates in Africa, Europe, America, and Asia. We give you news as it breaks from the perspective you can trust. LN 24/7 News, where the story goes, we go.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues? Order. The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join LN 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics. Apologize for saying that I'm corrupt.
I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now on LN 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on LN 24/7.
All right, a very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us today on another experience. Yeah, another journey begins today, Monday, the 8th of July in the year 2024. My name is Henry Williams. Welcome to This Morning.
Absolutely, bright and early. My name is Zoe McDarlington Esada. It's great having you here. It's the start of another wonderful week. I know you're pumped to get this ball rolling.
Well, you might be shell-shocked, going out early in the morning, depending on what kind of job you do, and find out that the roads are deserted and wondering what is really happening here. Well, I'd like to let you know that no less than 5 states in Nigeria have declared Monday, July the 8th as a public holiday for Hajj. For the Hajj. It's a Muslim
Yes.
thing. So what's Hajj, Zoe?
Well, I'm not sure, but I do know that the public holiday does have to do with the start of the Islamic calendar.
New Year.
Yes, New Year. So, so that's basically it. I didn't know about it until, like you said, we saw the roads empty.
Yeah, and it's called Hajj. So wish our Muslim brothers a very happy holiday, time to rest and time to reflect. Well, for people like us, the Monday has started, the week has started, and in earnest, and we're looking forward to fantastic things happening. Yes, we need to keep that positive light, leave all the negatives behind, put your best foot forward this morning. I'm wondering, what do we have on today's headline for you? Well, let's take you to our top stories on this morning. Well, we're starting with this one in the news. Tinubu re-elected as ECOWAS chairman.
And also on this morning's discussion, we're going to be looking at tackling rising insecurity and impact on food sovereignty.
Also in the news, court orders Buhari's minister to account for 729 billion naira payment to poor Nigerians.
Plus, also on the show this morning, controversy over the Samoa Agreement. What exactly did Nigeria sign?
So a lot to talk about on today's show. Join us again after the break for what's on the front burner. Glad to have you back. Morning once again. In case you're just joining us, you're watching this morning on LN24/7, and you're just in time for what's on the top burner. Now, first story, President Bola Tinubu has been re-elected as the chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, about 1 year after he took over the leadership of the regional bloc. Tinubu was first elected to the position in Guinea-Bissau, July the 9th, 2023. The Nigerian leader who rose to power in May 2023 was re-elected as ECOWAS chairman during the 65th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of States, of Heads of States and Government, that even took place at the presidential villa in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, on Sunday. Now, in his acceptance speech, President Tinubu said he would focus on consolidating the values of democracy and upholding the interests of the regional body. He appointed the president of Senegal, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, to become special envoy to Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic, along with President of Togo, Faure Gnassingbé, to do around-the-clock work in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Republic.
To continue the service with great members and great minds that are committed to democratic value and the journey for us in the region. I'll continue my utmost best to serve our interests and build on democratic value and the structure that we inherited. Having a new mandate, I will request Mr. Faye to please become our special envoy along Togo to do a round-clock walk with our brothers in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and coordinate with me if necessary, and with the Commission.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Then you give the vote of thanks.
All right. Well, you asked me, smart move by the president there of Nigeria and still the chairman of ECOWAS. But more is to come on what's on the front burner, Zoe.
Absolutely. Also on the front burner this morning, court orders Buhari's minister to account for 729 billion naira payment to poor Nigerians. Now, if the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has ordered the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disasters Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, to account for payments of 729 billion naira to 24.3 million poor Nigerians for 6 months. The court also ordered the former minister to provide the list and details of the beneficiaries who received the payments, the number of states covered, and the payments per state. The judgment was delivered last month by the Honorable Justice Deinde Isaac Dikbolu following Freedom of Information suit which was brought on by the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. This was disclosed in a statement by SERAP's Deputy Director, Kolawole Oluwadare, who noted that the certified true copy of the judgment was obtained last Friday. He stated that in his judgment, Justice Dikbolu held that the former minister is compelled by provisions of the Freedom of Information Act to give information to any person, including SERAP. I therefore grant an order of mandamus directing and compelling the minister to provide the spending details of the said amount to 24.3 million poor Nigerians in 2021. I'll leave it at that.
24.3 million Nigerians. They said, well, we'll definitely see how this will round up, how it will end. Certainly want to see the numbers, want to see the names. Well, that's not all. Don't hold your horses. The federal government yesterday explained that some more agreement with the European Union, actually the EU, does not violate any Nigerian law, clarifying that it was signed to boost food security and inclusive economic development. It further clarified the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, OACP's EU Cotonou Agreement, which expired in 2020, had facilitated the comment of about 1.7 billion euros in grants to Nigeria through the 9th, 10th and 11th European Development Fund, EDF. Now, this is as it vowed that fake news on signed agreement will no longer be taken lightly. Speaking at a joint media briefing, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, on the controversy surrounding the agreement. The Minister of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu Abubakar, again clarified that none of the articles of the agreement showed that Nigeria had recognized lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender, queer, LGBTQ rights. He said Nigeria won't enter into any agreement that would be antithetical to the Constitution as well as religious and cultural sensibilities of the heterogeneous people of Nigeria. The Economic Planning Minister explained that about 200 areas of cooperation were contained in the agreement signed by Nigeria. The minister also clarified that the document did not indicate $150 billion was to come to the country. It described the Samoa Agreement as a veritable instrument for Nigeria's development cooperation with the EU beyond aid, noting that the OACP's EU partnership was one of the most diverse and multifaceted pacts in the international system.
All right, I think we still do have one more story.
Yeah, we do.
One more story on the front burner before we get into it. The Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, has announced the extension of the deadline for registration of all point-of-sale operators, or POS, by additional 60 days. According to the Commission, the extension period, which starts from 7th July 2024 to the 5th of September 2026, is to allow operators, especially those in remote areas who might have encountered network glitches, to register. The Commission had earlier in May 2024 given a deadline of 7th July 2024, but in a statement posted on its X handle on Sunday, it noted that the registration will, beginning from the 7th July 2024 to the 5th of September 2024. Well, the Commission, however, warned that operators who fail or refuse to register at the end of the extended deadline run the risk of losing such businesses and prosecution for aiding and abetting criminal activities.
So POS operators, please go and register. Go and get registered, because we need to know those governments who, have the data of those who are handling currencies in Nigeria. I think this is a good step in the right direction if its government is actually going to tackle illicit funds that are going to terrorism, insecurity, also, funds we're passing through to kidnappers, to, terrorists and all of that. So I think it's a good step, but the issue I have with government on that is the amount they're asking those who are who come to register to repay. Now government is using that as an opportunity again to also to extort these guys. How much do they make on a daily? Many of them actually, we fielded some questions to them. Our reporters have spoken to some operators and they say, look, how much are we making on a daily basis? I mean, to come and pay this kind of money, I don't think it's really viable for us. So I think government should do a rethink. People are trying to help themselves in this system because practically all of us for now have become a government unto ourselves. We find our own water, we look for our own way of getting light, we look for a way of keeping body and soul together. And that's how it's been for a majority of Nigerians. The poverty is palpable. I mean, you walk on the street and somebody walks up to you. I was in church yesterday, a young man came up to me, very well dressed, and he says, I'm stranded, I need money to get home. And so these are the climes in which we find ourselves. So
it's quite unfortunate, and I do agree with you on that. I think in a way having them register is necessary, or became necessary. Also, in addition to the things that you mentioned, we had the fraud ongoings where people would get some cash from the POS operators, and the next they find the rest of the monies in their account totally wiped out. So so you had some undesirable elements giving the good ones a bad name, and so that became necessary. But for the other part, I will suggest maybe if they can put themselves into clusters and then maybe pay on a monthly basis. I'm talking about the registration fee, instead of having each POS operator pay a registration fee. Maybe they can come together, maybe I think they do have an association already, so I think that whoever is heading the organization,
if they have an association coming together, well, maybe that could be possible. But it is something worth looking into. But many would ask, what all this registration here and there, we have multiple data platforms that have been set up. You have your NIN, you have the your driver's license, you have your international passport, you have all this. When are we going to sync all this together? And when people ask the question, has it even helped in security? I mean, we have all this data, we have people, we have the telecoms taking data as well. How has it helped to curb the menace of kidnapping and all of that? And it's a legitimate question, because this data is supposed to help security security agents also track down illicit funds, track down criminals. But really, in these crimes, we've not seen that. We've seen during the Buhari era, they shut down telecoms and said, we're doing this so that we can prevent them from calling. I mean, this is absurd, absolutely absurd. We've seen a lot of absurdity, and we really need to charge governments, start using the data that you have taken so far. we're just coming from a controversy where Nigerian data was, put online data breach that we just had recently, where data of Nigerians were found online. Even the minister himself, minister of what's his name again? His data online, for sale at 100 naira, 200 naira online. Wow, that's a huge blunder. So we certainly hope that all this data that is being collected will finally be put to use. To give Nigerians, ease of doing business and going about whatever they do. Just a recap of the stories that we have for you on the front burner in case you missed it. We started with our own President Bola Tinubu has been re-elected as ECOWAS chairman, and it seems that the Jagaban charm is working on the regional scene. His re-election actually shows that, well, definitely he is well accepted by 15 member state ECOWAS. Well, it used to be 15 until some states pulled out, like Burkina Faso, Niger, and the like, who pulled out. So I believe that President Tinubu should use that opportunity to reunite ECOWAS, to bring back those who have left, and see how they can come back to the table. We build a stronger ECOWAS. And one of the legacies that I would believe that I would want President Tinubu to accomplish is to get the ECO, the single regional currency, rolled out. It's been a pipe dream for so many years, and it would really solve a lot of problems. It is very sad that within the region, African states don't trade as much as with themselves as they do with the West. With the West. And I dare say it's deliberate. We've hardened our borders and we cannot trade with each other. Before we trade with our neighbors, we have to change to dollars, and then we change back to their currency. And when you have maybe change left from business you've done in another country, another African country, coming back, that money becomes useless. So we need to look at that. Our leaders need to wake up and understand that Africa, needs to be one. We need to build our own economy. Look at what the European Union is doing. You have a, borderless European Union. They can move, people can move, trade can move without any hindrances, without, any obstacles. And that also helps their economic community thrive. So I think all hands should be on deck to see the ECO becoming a reality in the West African sub-region. We do have another headline here on the front burner. The court ordering Buhari's minister to account for 729 billion naira payments to poor Nigerians. And I think it's a legitimate call, and it's time if President Tinubu is saying that Nigerians who had jackpot, in civil service and are still collecting their salaries should return the money. I think also that if there had been foul play in past administration, such monies should be, returned immediately. There should be accountability. I think there should be a probe on the past administration on how monies were spent. I mean, the Buhari administration has been accused of so much financial profligacy. It would be a crime not to look into, the workings and how these monies were disbursed. And so it's a welcome call, and I want to appreciate and want to thank the likes of SERAP, Social and I'll try to remember their name, Accountability Project, SERAP, for pushing this, this issue, and really taking it to the courts on behalf of the people to see, how these monies were spent, who were those recipients of this money. And we'll see how that, although you did ask a question, that she's the one now being in the line of fire. The minister, being a former minister, being in the line of fire. Her name Sadia Umar Farouk. She's the one whose name is being called now. But you know, these things, when these things, well, there is a paper trail, and
absolutely,
are we really ready to rock the boat on this matter?
Well, so that's you know, it's up to them. Definitely, if she's going to be prosecuted, for instance, it hasn't come to that for now. There's just an ongoing probe. You know, she's been asked to provide details of how the monies were spent. They want to see lists, they want to see names, families, all of that. She was a minister, so obviously she wasn't. She
presided
the only
over
one.
the money.
She did, but you know, she might not have been the only one. At this point, Nigerians just want to see lists, names. If you're saying a whole 24.3
billion.
No, I'm talking of the number of Nigerians.
Okay, 24.3 million
poor Nigerians. They should, you know, they should
know them.
They should have names. They should have addresses. We should know where to find them and ask them. Did you, did you receive such monies? Were you a beneficiary of this? We should be able to do that. You know, so I guess she has nothing to fear if she makes those details available. But if she doesn't, that's when it will become a problem.
Arises. Yes. I know this way these investigations go. They are long. It's a long, winding road, and really, at the end of the day, Nigerians end up disappointed, forgetting about it. It's a rigorous, it's made to look so cumbersome. Look at the investigation of former Minister of Petroleum during the Goodluck Jonathan administration, Desiani Allison. It's more or less ended in a stalemate, if you ask me. So how is this going to pan out? You know, how does this... a lot of Nigerians are, really not optimistic that anything might come out of this. When we hope that the government will surprise us, will disappoint us on that note, and have something, tangible will come out of this investigation.
Indeed.
Okay. Our next story on the front burner, talking about the Samoa Agreement, and the government has come out with a vengeance, with rage over this allegations that it signed a LGBTQAI law, and it says no, and he has gone to great lengths. The minister has gone to great lengths. Minister of Information has gone to great lengths to explain that the information circulating is wrong. It says it does not violate any Nigerian law. Now that's the document, the article, that we will be, some of the areas that have been cited by analysts, that the gray areas cited by analysts that carry some underlining issues that we'll be discussing much later on the program with our guest. Mary Kemezie is a lawyer and member of the Foundation for African Cultural Heritage, and she has been one of those the forefront of this matter, educating Nigerians that there was actually foul play in signing that agreement, and that's the minister's response to that. The agreement, there explains the partnership agreement is between the EU and its member states on one hand, and the members of the OACPs on the other. The negotiations agreement started in 2018 on the sidelines in 73rd United Nations General Assembly and all of that. So you can get all that on the minister's X handle, talking about the Samoa Agreement, Minister Mohammed Idris, FNIPR. He explains and says this time around, it's not going to be business as usual for those who have accused the government. Have they accused the government wrongly? That's what we aim to find out when we get our guests to come and join us on today's edition of the show, discussing this matter. And finally, still on the front burner, we have the CAC extends deadline for POS operators. Well, did we see this coming? I think we did.
We did. It had to.
We did see it coming.
We did see it coming. So
yeah, because people were turned off the POS operators have been turned off by, they say, exorbitant registration rates that the government has slammed on the matter. I think the government should, apart from extending the deadline, I think should look into why they haven't registered. They should be happy to do that. They should be rushing to come on board to have themselves registered. So government, it behoves on the government to actually look into the reason why there's been a slow pace and foot dragging in getting POS operators to register. Because right now you find out that banks seem to have how do you call it, given up that responsibility of making sure that the ATMs have the money to dispense. Many a times you go to different banks right now, you might find nothing in the ATM machines, no money to withdraw from the ATM machines. It's become something very commonplace in these climes. Well, some have said, some analysts have waded into it, saying it's part of the policy of cashless policy that's taking another dimension to make sure that everything goes E.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what were the ATMs
Nigerian payment system goes E. You don't have to use cash any longer. Yeah, it seems the ATMs have outlived their purpose. If that policy is supposed to be fully implemented, you only need the ATMs to go and do a transfer.
Okay. So how ready are we? You go to the market, how many people in the market
have been integrated
into that? So I want to swipe, I want to buy pepper, and I'm like, can I swipe my card? And she's looking at me, and the next thing, they're getting a POS operator. I'm going to pay a charge of 300 naira in addition to the money I'm getting. So at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense. So then the question is, how ready are we? How inclusive has this policy been all along, or what more is being done to really get everyone on board? I'm not seeing much of that happen.
The Chinese companies, one of these payment system companies, I don't want to mention their names, had something similar where you could scan. They did the marketing themselves. Those in the markets had
like a QR code.
Yeah, they had a QR code. You go there because their customers, they're on the same platform. They go there and you scan, the QR code, and they get paid.
Yes.
So these things are possible. But the point is, government is not doing enough footwork. They're not doing enough footwork to make life easy. It's like, you come and meet us. It's your problem. It's not our problem. And I think, I dare say, it is wrong. It is a wrong way, a wrong approach has been taken. And that's why it's taken so long. We need to learn from those in the private sector.
They're doing well.
We need to learn from the private sector because they're more driven to achieve their goals and objectives, because time is money. And government is like, well, we hold the yam and we hold the knife, so we can
whenever we decide.
Whenever we decide. But it really, it is possible to achieve, getting everybody into the cashless policy system. But you should sit down with all stakeholders and see how we can work together and achieve this.
Indeed.
But then again, there are other, there are those who actually have reservations about this, because there comes government control comes in, the e-money. We saw what happened during the cash how do you call it, policy of the Buhari administration, where, changing the naira, where people could not get their money. Their money was trapped in the system, and they could do nothing. People, almost went crazy. People were, doing crazy things in banking halls because they had to meet, they had urgent needs to meet. So, can government be trusted with such power to control the whole financial system? That is a different discussion for another day. Nigeria, that is a different discussion. But with government, we saw what happened with the COVID-19 era, and all of that, the clampdown on dissent and all of that. Now, money, you need money to do a lot of things. You need money for your livelihood. So if government has sole control over your money, that means it has control over you, like we have in China.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the phone lines are open. We are expecting you to call us and weigh in on some of the stories we have brought to you on the front burner this morning. Very, very interesting stories. We'd like to hear your part or your side or your perspectives. What do you think should happen in each of the stories? Now, so while we wait for your calls, I just for the re-election of Mr. President as ECOWAS chairman, congratulations, are in place, and I do think it does show, like you mentioned, that there's this regard that the countries, other African countries have for us, for Nigeria as a country. So that is good. But we must also remember it comes with a whole lot of financial responsibilities. Yeah. So, you carry it. You take it, it's fine. We're good, you can handle it. That's okay. Yeah, but it is what it is. So we are happy, that we are given that honor once again to serve, and of course it does behoove honor Mr. President and all those with him to do a good job. You talked about the ECHO, which is something that has been approved, so we do hope that we will actually see the actualization of that project. If it happens within this current tenure, all good and fine. Otherwise, we need to see how that goes. Then there's the issue of bringing back Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger back to the fold. They are still insisting we're out. We don't want to return to the bloc. We'd rather align ourselves with some other countries who are more attuned to our aspirations, as military governments at the moment. I don't know how successful they're going to be with that, but I do think if the right incentives are given, if some of the sanctions that were placed on the countries are lifted, then perhaps they might consider returning.
They are sovereign states. They are sovereign states. They have the rights to say they don't want to be part of what you're doing. If they want to, you deal with them, as a sovereign. Yes, as a sovereign, you deal with them on an equal basis. And yeah, if they have resources like Niger has uranium that France has been exploiting for decades, and it's lighting up Paris and France, while Niger is in darkness. People are in squalor and in abject poverty. And I think they've woken up to that reality that enough is enough. And it's really sad that ECOWAS did not support them in that, and rather wanted to force their hands. Well, if you come to equity, you must come with clean hands. And so I think ECOWAS has retraced its steps, knowing that forceful approach will not help the region. Will never work the region, and will not allow the unseen hand to push, its member states into war with its neighbors. That would not serve our purpose. So I'm happy that President Tinubu is better advised, on that matter. And I don't think that would be President Tinubu's style. I really didn't think that was his intent. He's a private sector, he's a technocrat. He has private sector experience, and he's more skilled in negotiation. And I believe that that initial, body language was induced. It was induced by external forces and Western influences, which I'm happy did not work out. So now must look at how we can use non-kinetic measures. To use the power of negotiation, of interest, to get them back. And then getting them back is not just the only thing. Getting them back to do what? What has ECOWAS been able to achieve over the decade, in the last decade? What have they been able to achieve amongst themselves? You cannot even, you cannot even come to a conclusion on having a single currency. That is because the powers that manipulate you, the same powers that Niger pushed out, are not allowing it to happen, because they know the implication. They know the implication of what that will be. So that has been the problem, in this whole issue. No, I think ECOWAS should have a blueprint on what it wants to achieve. And so bring all stakeholders, say, this is what we want to do. What can we do? How can we become better? How can we become stronger? as a region. You know, because we must begin to understand that we're at war, but not the kind of war you find where bombs are being dropped. It's a war of interest. And we must begin to protect our interests. We must see how we can rise as a continent, you know. And if we start with I dare say that ECOWAS is the most powerful bloc, having Nigeria, the most populous nation and you know, largest economy in it. There's so much Nigeria, you know, hinged on Nigeria being in ECOWAS. So I believe that President Tinubu, with the right advice, right interactions, can achieve this. There's so much, you know, at stake. So I hope that his choosing of Diomaye Faye of Senegal is a very brilliant move. He's a greenhorn in my sense. He's not of the old guard.
Yes. And
comes with a clean slate. You know, he's not been associated with the former leaders who have been, you know, fingered, or with the Western powers who many have accused of being stooges of Western imperialism. He's a new one, and he comes with a vibrant, you know, vision and hope of a new Africa. So he will be in better place to discuss with the young, you know, leaders in these countries who have taken power. They will be able to sit and discuss. Maybe call them the Gen Z of leadership in Africa. You know, so yeah, they will have a lot, you know, to share. And it's a good move. We'll see how it pans out. But I hope that Faye will stay true to the dream, because it's easier said, but when you're in the saddle, it's a different, you see from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Why have leaders in the past failed to achieve this? Look at what's happening to Ruto in Kenya. He spoke very well, and Orita went to UN last year, said a whole lot of things that that Africa's borders should be softened. I mean, Kenya should not be requesting visas from its African brothers. Has it been implemented till today? No, it hasn't been implemented. Now I think he sees what is involved, you know, especially when these guys know how to rope you in with debt. And debt has been the same, you know, you know, say proverbial mirror that, you know, they used in the slave era to give to the chiefs, the mirror and tobacco. And yes, and enslave, you know, the people of Africa. So we must understand the dynamics of geopolitics, and that Africa can only win together. We cannot win on our own, because these guys, they are ravenous. They are ravenous, and they have a head start. But we have the resources that they want, and that is what is our trading, that is our bargaining chip. We have the resources that they want, and that is why I was listening to one of the reactions from Burkina Faso, I think Niger's leader, the military leader in Niger, saying, they say Africa is, they say our nation is poor, we are poor and we have nothing to contribute, but they refuse to leave. They refuse to leave. You know, our uranium is powering France. And you know, we tell them to leave. They say they don't want to. Yeah, they don't want to go. They start grandstanding. So my appeal to, you know, leaders in ECOWAS is know who you are, because when you know who you are, you know how to deal with external threats which are posed by you know, the neoliberal policies that are being forced down, you know, our throats. So we want to take a quick break. I need to call my guest. The guest is trying to reach me right now. So call my guest. We'll take a break. Call my guest. We'll come back on the front burner, and hopefully we'll open the phone lines again before we go. Stay with us.
Ellen 24/7 is first of all a news station.
We will continue with updates from the just concluded governorship
in the southeast has raised questions if INEC will be able to conduct elections.
With a core team of over 40 correspondents spread across Nigeria.
Nigeria is set to take its place.
The unions of aviation workers are out here protesting.
And affiliates in Africa, Europe, America, and Asia. We give you news as it breaks from the perspective you can trust.
LN 24/7 News, where the story goes, we go.
Catch the thrills, and all passion of world's biggest sports fiesta. From July the 26th to August 11th, 2024 on LN 24/7 Network. Olympic 2024 game live on LN 24/7. Watch all the action as Nigerian stars shine to glory. For advert placements and sponsorship, call these numbers 081-367-99969, 070-542-81181, and 0802-332-2032. France 2024 Olympics. Games wide open. Faster. Higher. Stronger. LN 24/7, where the news goes, we go.
At LN 24/7 Sports, football just got better. For the fans. For loyalty. For the tackles.
A near supernatural goal from Lionel Messi.
For the celebrations. For the goals. For the love of the game.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues? Order. The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join LN 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now on LN 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on LN 24/7.
All right, great to have you back. You're still watching This Morning on LN 24/7. All right, good morning to you. In case you just joined us, just in time as we move into the next phase. We'll be talking about some of the issues on the front burner. We're moving from there now to look at our first discussion, very interesting and burning issue, which we'd like to bring you up to speed with. We're talking the issue of security. Security has been a very, very critical issue. You know, in the past week, so much has happened, giving Nigerians a lot of concern, you know, and so there was a security summit that happened last month that we like to revisit on today's edition of the program, and we'll be looking at tackling rising insecurity and its impact on food security. So we'll be joined by two experts, you know, have a lot of information in this area. Professor Christopher Gamua from the Center for Agricultural Research will be joining us. He's the executive director there. And we also have Jamil Mabai, crisis journalist reporter. And then he will definitely be with us now. But first of all, let me give you a backdrop to our discussion today. In Katsina on the 17th of June 2024, Northwest Governors Forum Nigeria, in collaboration with the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, hosted the inaugural Northwest Peace and Security Summit in Katsina State, which took place from the 24th to 25th of June. This landmark event was the first of its kind in the region. It was hosted by Katsina State Government and brought together governors from across the Northwest region and key partners to address the pressing security challenges facing the area. The summit arrived at a crucial moment for Northwest Nigeria as the region faces mounting security challenges in recent years. There has been a marked increase in incidents of banditry, terrorism, and communal conflicts. These issues had devastating consequences for the local population, which has resulted in significant loss of life, severe disruption to livelihoods, and widespread destruction of property that affected farmers in that area, Nigeria's food basket. So there was a need for coordinated action and solutions to restore peace and stability to the region. Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Jigawa, Sokoto, and Zamfara states were in that summit. Let's take a soundbite from Vice President Kashim Shettima and Governor Katsina Diko Rada on the summit, and we'll be right back.
As we gather to address some of the most pressing challenges facing our beloved Northwest region. Our shared history, culture, and aspirations bind us together. And it is this unity that we must harness to confront the issues of insecurity. The Northwest Governors Forum began shortly after we were elected in office. As governors-elect, we met and agreed to tackle our shared issues together. Insecurity was an obvious concern to all, and we agreed to work closely to tackle the issue. We also looked to developing agriculture and power supply in the region with the aim of promoting socio-economic development. We visited the President of African Development Bank as a group to seek support. We also recently met with the leadership of the United Nations to pursue a regional approach to development. Our effort to tackle security took us to Washington to attend a symposium put together by the United States Institute of Peace, where we informed them of our ongoing plan to hold the very summit at home. The Northwest Governors are now a brotherhood with the goal of providing peace, security, prosperity for our people. We have transcended to the political divide and remain focused on a collective effort towards development, while individually performing the mandate bestowed upon us by the people of our various states.
I want to use him as my point of reference to recognize and appreciate all our royal fathers present here. And to the Deputy Governor of Sokoto, I have a simple message for you. Yes, the Sultan is the Sultan of Sokoto, but he is much more than that. He represents an idea, he's an institution that all of us in this country need to jealously guard, protect, promote, preserve, and project for the good of our nation. Elder statesmen, former ministers, senior government officials, captains of industry, members of the
discussed issue of rising insecurity in the region, and that's what we're seeking to discuss right now on the program. Joining us right now is our guest, Jamil Mabai. He's a conflict reporter, and he was there at the summit, and really would like to feel his pulse on what he thinks and what was achieved at that summit. Okay, while we're trying to get Jamil to join us, well, it'd be interesting to find out what were the takeouts from that event. Security, there's no gainsaying that. I personally would feel that it would be President Tinubu's undoing if he did not tackle this thing 90% to bringing it down, to 10% from where it is right now, because. I don't think we can actually begin to discuss what he's achieved if security is not dealt with. I don't think there's room for us to put anything else on the table right now.
Totally. And I think this summit that held was very significant, in the sense that these are the people who are much closer to the conflicts. Anytime there's talk about insecurity in the country, we're quick to think, okay, Mr. President, responsible for all the insecurity happening in the different places. Well, that might appear so, but in truth, it is the governors who are the chief security officers of their states. I want to begin to see how governors use or leverage on summits like this, maybe even the entity as a forum, the governors forum. How can they leverage on the forum as an entity in dealing? Because anytime they come together, at least that we've seen in the past, they're either griping that they can't handle the situation, they say they are not given enough money, the security votes are not enough, or they're calling for the federal government to declare a state of emergency in their own state. But I thought you are the person in charge there. So how come you are throwing your hands in the air to say, I don't know how to deal with this, I can't deal with this, I'm being overrun, federal government, come and help me.
You campaigned, you fought, as they say, you fought, you jogged, you screamed, your voice hoarse, and in the bid to get people to vote for you, and then when you get to the seat, you now tell them, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. I think it is totally...
Exactly. So I want to begin to see an approach that deals with insecurity state by state, because it's different. And if you recall, the discussion we had last Monday, the professor made an allusion to that. He said, Jamil, he said, it's different in my state than it is in Benue. you know, and in different Katsina, the security issue is not the same. Yes, you could have banditry and clashes between herders and farmers generally across the board, but it's different. In some areas, it is the mining, illegal mining, that is driving the insecurity, the violence there. In some others, it is farmers are not allowed to go to the farm. So it is different. So how are we dealing it, you know, specifically in that state? I think that's the approach that needs to be explored, as it were, instead of just saying, well, insecurity happening across the board, how do we deal with it? So I would love to know really how, you know, the summit.
If I didn't know, I thought maybe you've done a course in security somewhere, because really you're making a lot of sense in that, honestly, because really right now the governors cannot be absolved from all what is happening. It is a disservice, and it is really sad that the governors want to throw their hands up in you know, total exasperation. But they also claim that they have a case in the sense that they don't actually control the security apparatus of their states 100%. So that is a problem.
Yes.
If I'm presiding over a state, I am the chief security officer there. I should be the final,
in charge of the apparatus.
I should be, you know, the alpha and omega in that state when it comes to issue of security, so that people can actually hold me accountable. So, but that has not been happening. But that is where your ingenuity comes into play. Taking, for example, if your family was at threat, wouldn't you do whatever it takes to make sure that you protect them? And so we see that, you know, we don't want to, you know, accuse the governors of insensitivity or more or less not being effective. But when you protect yourself and your people are not protected, I think it leaves a lot to be desired. Especially they are the people that voted you into power. I'd rather, it would be better to say your life is under threat and your people are safe, than to say that they are totally, you know, left to the whims and you know, of the whole insecurity, and you are in the confines, well guarded with security detail and all of that, and your state is being plundered, it's being ravaged by insecurity. I don't think that's a good scorecard for any governor.
Absolutely.
And so the question is, have these governors done enough to ensure that, you know, they get all the stops, they get all what they need to protect their citizens? And I had really not seen, if you look at you know, you look at bodies like SERAP, you can see that they are with governors tooth and nail. They are holding with the federal government. In every situation, they are coming at the federal government. I want to see that same determination amongst the state governors to make sure that the federal government wades into the issue of security in their states and say, okay, what can we do for you? What do you need? But right now, the governors are not showing, I don't think they're showing that sense of urgency that is needed to tackle the situation. But these are the questions that we certainly hope to pose to our guest, Jamil Mabai, when he joins us, okay, on the discussion. He is in Katsina State. He broke the story of farmers, about 50 farmers that were killed in such a horrific manner to goals last month. He raised the alarm and said, look, there was no security on ground to protect his farmers. He could not get out of the area. Okay, all right, we're told Jamil is now with us. Hello, Jamil. Good morning. Great to have you on the show. And see him.
There he is.
All right, there he is. Jamil, great to have you join us this morning.
It's good to see you guys again.
All right, thank you so much. We had to, you know, get you in early. You know, we have so much to talk about, Jamil. Northwest Governors Forum, in collaboration with the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, hosted the inaugural Northwest Peace and Security Summit in Katsina State. That summit was first of its kind in the region, hosted by your state governor there, Aminu Rada, hosted by him, and so much came out of that summit, which I'd like you to share with us. How would you assess what was discussed and what the final takeouts were on that date?
Okay, thank you very much. Like you said, it was the first of its kind, and I could remember during a side interview with the former governor of Katsina State, Governor Aminu Bello Masari. You said something that, what happened at the summit, what they tried to do during their time, during the El-Rufai, Masari, Ganduje period. He said they tried to bring the governors together under one table to understand and accept the fact that they have to come together before they can fight this banditry. And thankfully, this is what the current governor and the other governors in the Northwest, they came together and they first accepted the fact that this is a common problem and it needs a common approach in tackling the problem. And regarding we are yet to see the resolutions, that were held at, for the summit, and I think, in the next 1 week or 2 weeks it will be ready, and it's based on that the governors and the defense ministry and all other stakeholders will use the recommendations of the summit and begin implementation. So even journalists and analysts are still waiting for that resolution to be out before we begin to comment on the outcome of the summit. But to give it a general, summary of the major talking points during the summit, where we had the vice president there, we have representatives of different countries, especially Germany and UNDP, and also we have the Minister of Defense was there. But one key surprising thing, it was the National Security Advisor was not there, and I doubt if he has sent any representative. And a gathering of such magnitude, we should have the National Security Advisor there also driving this conversation. And most of the conversation from the governors of Zamfara and especially from the governor of Zamfara was the issue of he doesn't have power over the soldiers and the police, and his city, his state is being, is being attacked by these bandits. He made mention, he said something, people, I don't think if people paid attention to what he says if nothing is done to stop this thing, a time will come whereby this particular meeting, he was making reference to the summit, this particular summit meeting we are having, we will not be having it because the bandits will come and will not allow such meetings to happen. So what he was trying to say is that Zamfara is getting out, it's going out of control from the government. Bandits are taking places, attacking local governments, people are living there, the bandits are expanding their territories and what have you. So the governor was very, very. Also, the other thing that was the talking point during the conversation was how can those responsible, the security agencies, when they apprehend these bandits, they shouldn't just take them to court and take them to prison. They should study them. There should be some kind of psychosocial therapy given to them to understand why are this guy doing this, and to see how they can in case of, when a bandit finishes his term, so that he can be reintegrated back into the society. So there were issues regards that, and issues also with regards to, displaced people who are victims of the banditry. In particular, one of the experts is a retired major general. He says what he is scared, what's making the whole issue scary to him is, you don't expect a family who were living a normal life, and they can afford the basic things of life, but all of a sudden bandits came, they killed their father, they killed the parents, the children. Maybe out of the family, only one or two survived, and they are now living in destitute. They are destitute on the streets. They don't have even anywhere to go. So the government also need to begin to, the government needs to start looking at those people also, because a time will come, if care is not taken, that same mindset, they will have that mindset, okay, maybe that's the only way one can survive in this country, is to carry a gun and start attacking people. So those were just the key elements, the talking points of the summit. As usual, the others is politics, politics, politics. So, but these are the major key points, talking points of the summit.
Okay, thank you so much, Jamil. Still on that summit, I kind of would love to know what exactly is the governor's position. What did they talk about, what their peculiar challenges are that they are facing specifically within their own states? Has that come up in conversation? Like, have they talked about what their handicap is? Why is it difficult for them as governors to deal with the insecurity in their various states? Are their hands tied in some way? Did that come up in that summit?
It did. Like during the breakaway sessions, the governor of Katsina and Zamfara, to understand something, Katsina and Zamfara share similar problem. The context of banditry in Katsina and Zamfara is the same. The context in Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, Birnin Kebbi is the same. The only one that differs is Kaduna State. And it was so unfortunate, Governor Obasani was not at the summit. She sent his deputy governor, and when she came, what she said, it wasn't something we were expecting her to say. She virtually digressed from the whole, issue. But the common problem Katsina Zamfara, the governors of Katsina Zamfara are sharing, is that of control. They don't have control over the federal police and the soldiers. That's what they're saying. Let the government send troops. And the state government is ready to give its own quota or its own contribution to see to the welfare of these troops and assist them in this fight. But the issue is, you cannot, if Katsina and Zamfara, if the federal government decide to send troops to Katsina and Zamfara, then what happened to that of Kaduna? Because that was what the former governor of Katsina said they faced during that time. The state government, the federal government will set up, will send troops maybe and station the troops within the border of Katsina and Zamfara. So when the bandits sees that, then it's easier for them to travel, to leave Zamfara Katsina axis, then they move towards the Niger Kaduna axis. So, and also one thing I forgot, the Niger state government wasn't there. I think he only sent, is it the commissioner or something like that? And Niger is an important corridor when it comes to fighting banditry in northwest Nigeria, because that is the corridor that link, northwest and some part of the north central. So these bandits and this Rugu forest, I spoke the other time about it, it extends from Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina down to Niger, to Kaduna, down to Abuja. So Niger is an important corridor. So when you station troops there, these same bandits will use that corridor and move towards Niger and Kaduna axis. So while the troops are here fighting the bandits, the little bandits that remain, while majority of them have moved towards those axes. So after a while, then the troops will be taken from Zamfara, Sokoto border, and down the station at Kaduna, Niger axis. Same bandits will use the same corridor and come back to their normal territories. So these were the issues raised by the Katsina State Governor and the Zamfara State Governor. They need troops to fight these things, but this time around they need the fight to be collectively. Whatever approach they are going to adopt, it's going to be a collective approach. And thank God I had the defense minister was there and he spoke. He said he is willing and ready to accept whatever recommendation, and they are ready to partner with these governors and fight this thing together. But when it comes to Nigeria, sometimes it's just politics. But this time around, they said, so let's wait and hope what comes after the resolution is out.
Okay.
Well, Jamil, do you think the governors can do more? Some have put the blame on the governors and saying, look, you campaigned, you rigorously campaigned, you made promises, you knew the problems were there, and you expected to hit the ground running. You have resources, and how much of those resources have you used, have expended to the extent that to say, okay, I've exhausted all my arsenal before saying I need more support? I mean, these states have human resources that government can actually use. We have according to some security experts, you have former veterans in these states, retired military officers. You have their experience to fall back on. You have, these capabilities to actually harness. How far do you think that they have done enough so far to protect their citizens in their states at time? And do you think they have pushed hard enough to get the government to know that, look, government cannot but listen to what their needs are on this matter?
To be frank, Harry, the state governors, from the happenings, they cannot do anything. I have to be frank with you. Let me give you, for instance, 2 weeks ago, there was an attack that happened in Katsina. And the attack happened a day to the summit. That was on Sunday. The summit, it was on Monday, it happened on Sunday. There is a particular local government called Musa, and there is this village is called Maidabini. And that village, what happened was, the people of that community they come out only once in a week, once a week. That's the only time they can come out. And when they are coming out, there have to be troops that accompany them. And when they come, they go to market, they buy their foodstuff, and the troops will now escort them back to the village. And that is it. So what happened on that Sunday, on their way back with the military troops, then the bandits began to shoot. The military had to call for reinforcement, and even when the reinforcement came, they couldn't penetrate that area. They had to wait till around evening. Then that was how they sneaked and accompanied the people back. But what happened after was the bandits came and they began killing and burning their foodstuffs and everything, and they kidnapped almost 80 people. So last week, they released a video. I don't know if you've seen the video. They released a video of the victims. If you see the kind of weapons, we're not talking about AK-47 now. No, we're talking about, GPMG, is it MGGP, or I don't know, that one with a lot of bullets. You see them, RPGs. I have not seen AK-47 and RPG. And they were like 30 of them or 20 of the bandits. They were all holding those guns and RPG. So tell me, there is no state governor. In fact, there is even restriction on the kind of guns that state governors can give to community, security approaches like the vigilante guys we have. So if the Nigerian soldiers with their armored vehicles, with their AK-47 cannot defend the people because they lack the firepower, to prevent these attacks, because it was more like a confrontation. So the bandits overpowered them and they have to retreat. So no matter the resources, if the federal government will give Katsina State government, let's say 100 billion naira to spend on security, there is nothing, in as much as that weapons are not there. That pump action cannot do anything. Cannot do anything. So their hands are tied. They cannot do anything. And I think most of these politicians, the problem they face is when politicking, they make promises, out of ignorance. Sorry for the use of the word ignorance, because they don't know how, how the policies and everything works when it comes to government. So they begin to tell people once they get elected, they will ensure that they fight this banditry, they bring banditry to end, and so and so and that. But when they get to office, that's when they begin to realize, okay, there are certain restrictions and power to what they can do and what they can acquire when it comes to issues of security. So the issue of security is solely a national issue. Had it been it's maybe the police are within the purview of the governor, then probably he can at least provide them with more AK-47, more armored vehicles, and what have you. But yes, the governors also, if the commitment is there, they can assist probably with the police in those affected areas with armored vehicles. Because I have seen the impact of these armored vehicles. There was a time I was part of an operation, I was there, I embedded as a journalist, so I was inside one of the armored vehicles, and I have seen its impact. It was just, 2 armored vehicles, but if you see the kind of success that was recorded because of that particular vehicle, then if the governors can provide a lot of armored vehicles to these local government areas at the frontline level, let's say each police station to regional headquarters, let it have like 4 to 3 armored vehicles, that are working. That will go a long way in assisting the police, because no police officer will confront these bandits with a normal Hilux vehicle. He's not going to go. Even the soldiers. And it's even easier to have the police heading these operations than the soldiers, because sometimes the chain of command that involves, when it comes to the military, it takes time before they respond. But the police are quick to respond. We have seen what happened in Dusama, where an area commander was killed. We've seen how he used the little, what is it called, the APC he has within his area in battling these bandits. And at a certain point...
Hello? Jamil, are you still with us?
Okay, connection a bit. He's back. Okay, go ahead, Jamil. You were just about to...
yes, at a certain point, bandit along those axes doesn't have the audacity to come near a village or community there because of the quick response of that area commander. But the problem is the area commander was misled by one of his trusted and a vigilante guy, not knowing that that guy was working for the bandits. He was an informer, and that was how he was lured and ambushed by almost 400 bandits who came from Zamfara and all other places. So that's to show you that and the money is there. So the state government, the little resources or the ample resources they have at their disposal, if they can buy these armored vehicles, it will go a long way in boosting the morale of this police, and when it comes to quick response or even the community shield. But when it comes to the use of the real force, the governors, their hands are tied. I interviewed the governor of Zamfara. You know, the man means business. He is willing to fight this thing, but he lacks the resources from the government.
I kind of want us to look at the root causes, because in a lot of your conversation, in a lot of your communication, it is mostly about how to now deal with, it's like treating the full-blown disease, and we're not much looking at the root causes. If we are, I don't know to what extent. I want to know how. Talking about the root causes, I do remember that the Vice President Kashim Shettima, who by the way, when he was governor of Borno, I do recall at the time also he was very critical of the then Goodluck Jonathan administration, accusing him of not really doing much to deal with Boko Haram at the time. And I do recall that he said that part of the reason for banditry and insecurity in the country was corrupt governance. He said corrupt governance is partly responsible, or is responsible, for banditry and all that we now see. So so there's corrupt governance as one root cause, as said by the Vice President. And then on the other hand, the issue of mercenaries, which is not often looked at, and the role they play, although of course government on most occasions deny that they employ mercenaries to come, to bring in mercenaries to come help fight insecurity. It comes with its own challenges. Because then in trying to pay them, they come with all kinds of concessions. Sometimes mining concessions, are given to these mercenaries as a form of payment for their services. So are we looking, perhaps in the summit, are we looking at some of these areas that are not often talked about? Because in dealing with insecurity, there has to be a holistic approach. If we're just talking firepower, how we're going to subdue the forces and all of that, we may not make much headway. You've already said that resources sometimes are scarce. Governors say the resources are scarce, they don't have full control. So these other areas that are not often talked about, how do we get them to bear on the situation and perhaps deal with them as well?
Okay, again, the issue of for context, the issue of insecurity in the Northeast, by the Boko Haram guys is different from the banditry. The Boko Haram guys, they have an ideology. They believe they are fighting for a cause, and probably once that cause is achieved, probably they are going to stop attacking people. But when we come down to the issue of banditry, these are people with no agenda, with no ideology, with nothing. They are just mere criminals. They don't have a target to, okay, after we kill 10,000 people, we're going to stop killing people. Or after we have this and that, we're going to stop. But, okay, the root causes here, we can attribute it to, corruption is there, but there was collapse of governance, complete governance at local government level. For context, let me just briefly explain to you what I'm trying to say. You see, in the Northwest, we have what we call the traditional system of governance. And that traditional system of governance, was powerful prior to coming of democracy, prior to 1999. And what I mean by that, district heads at rural areas, they have the power to make decisions. So when there is a conflict, they take decisions there and then. And these Fulani people, people, mostly these bandits are Fulani people, and they are not Fulani people or people that came from Cameroon. No, the people that once lived with us as neighbors peacefully. So their families are known, their parents are still alive, their relatives are still alive. It's just their children that decided to carry these guns. So how did we reach to this stage? So when after the return of democracy, there was election, local government election, and we have this councillorship. The control was taken from those traditional leaders, those district heads. And the Fulani people used to have what we called grazing routes. They call it brutally in Hausa. And the Hausa communities, who are majorly the educated ones, who are now occupying the seat of power, began to sell these grazing routes to themselves, either to turn them into their personal farms or to construct houses and what have you. And when this happened, the Fulani community, they have their own system of leadership, and their leaders are answerable to those district heads. So when a crime is committed, it's easier using the traditional system to detect who commits the crime and for justice to be carried on right there. So it got to a point, if a crime is committed, the Fulani people don't have no one to report to, because when they go to the district head, he has no powers now to make decisions. And the local government chairman is not there, because they are at the city, they are at the capital, they hardly stay in their local governments. So it was a repetitive process that kept happening, and it got to a point where the children of these people began to clash with the Hausa farmers, because in the absence of this grazer route, their cows need what is it called? They need that they need a grazing. They need a place where they can at least go and do their grazing. So they began to encroach on Hausa farmers. They began to encroach their farmlands, and they will devour the entire farm. So that was how the crisis started. And one of the problems at that particular period, the government knew what was happening but failed to act while the problem was at the latent stage. So while the governance at local government level, began to completely vanish, now begin to arm and turn into the monsters that we have now.
Jamil, what you've painted, the picture you've painted is totally a failure of governance for me, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
Every state should be able to cater for its own, especially the Fulanis have a place where they reside, and it behoves on the government to create an enabling environment for them to thrive.
Exactly.
That not happening, we've seen this spiral out of control. But my concern is that in other areas as well, let's leave the states now, let's go to the center where where the security apparatus is controlled from. In that discussion at the summit, was there any issue raised in sense of tracking of illicit funds? Because these guys are talking about sophisticated weapons. Somebody's, they're getting money from somewhere. The money is passing through the financial system. Are we saying that these monies are on notice? Is there no way to track this? And was this a source of discussion? And the issue of weapons proliferation as well is a very big concern. How do these weapons get into the country? I've seen videos, sent to me of weapons being dropped, for these terrorists, weapons being dropped for these, kidnappers by helicopters. But I cannot, these are allegations. I cannot ascertain the location or anything of that. But it is worth looking at that. Are there other elements behind insecurity in the country? Are we looking at this thing from, a point of view where we can begin to say there are people actually sponsoring this and the terror and the crimes taking place now in the country?
Okay, yeah, that was where I was headed to. So that led us to where we are now. Now these guys have, they have weapons and they now see it as a way of making money. So there are a lot of things that are happening behind the scene, you understand? Now we have the issue of mining is there, the gold mining in Zamfara, in Anka and what have you. You understand? Now you have the issue of, mineral resources in my own area along the Kankara axis. You understand? And, there is the issue of where are these guys having, weapons like this. You've seen Turji the other time with an American weapon. So what happened at the summit? Issues like this were never discussed. And questions were never allowed. To be frank, there were no journalist or participant of whatsoever was allowed. I could remember I was, Kajariya Ahmad was the one, anchoring the sessions. He was the moderator, and I think I had to text her, like, they are not going to be a question and answer, session. She said no, she was told due to time and what have you. So this is the problem, Harry, we were facing as a country. Sometimes when you have a place, an event like that of such magnitude where the major stakeholders are there, then issues that need to be discussed, I swept under the carpet, I kept aside. And we know generally that, until we tackle these things, this issue of insecurity will continue. Until you now begin to see how you either make it a law or legalize mining in the Zamfara axis and Katsina axis and other places, this gold mining, this issue of banditry will never go away, because now a lot of them are moving to they are going deep into this gold mining. And until our porous borders are properly checked, because we don't own these weapons. For Trudy to get hold of that weapon, it must have come from somewhere. It's not going to be from, from Zamfara. No, it has to be through the border or through the, or somebody maybe transporting them, dropping the weapons, like you said. We've all seen videos like that, But all these, like you said, are allegations, are something you cannot, clearly verify that, okay, that plane is coming from so place and so place, And the Minister of Aviation was not there. And the people, I think even the custom community were not there, So issues like this were never discussed. And until we begin to discuss on these issues, this problem will, because it has now changed the trajectory. It's all about mining. It's all about mineral resources that we're talking about, Anka is completely, Anka is sitting on gold. And a lot of stakeholders, when I say stakeholders, are sitting on that gold and they're reaping the people, So
there's a lot to this issue. Just like you pointed, Jamil. Like honey, like bees to honey. The resources within these states, like you cited, gold in Zamfara state, definitely causing a lot of conflict and crisis, like we have in other parts of Africa and DR Congo, where you have militia, fighting over resources. And that's because government has failed to take control of these resources and make sure that there is security in those areas. And it's really sad that you cited that some critical stakeholders were not at that summit. You mentioned that the customs, you didn't cite the customs there. The same customs, we've been showing a picture while discussion has been going on where the catch of arms that were seized, worth billions of naira that were trying to come into the country, were seized by the customs. So the customs is a critical stakeholder when we talk about security in this matter. And I really wonder why they did not have a representative at such a critical meeting. It leaves a lot to consider about the political will to actually tackle this thing head on. Some have there is the narrative by some analysts who say that the issue of insecurity has become a cash cow. And some people are making a kill, in terms of financial, dividends from what is happening right now. Jamil.
Okay, let me give you, for instance, when a bandit is arrested, and when they ask, the number of operations he did, we mentioned like they did like 7 or 10. He has killed like 50 people. How much were you given when you kidnapped so and so? He will tell you that a ransom of 10 billion naira was collected, but he was given 50,000 naira or 100,000 naira. And when you see that person, you know that this is not the person that collected that amount. Something, there must be someone somewhere, you understand? And if you're going to beat them to death, that's the amount they were given. So I have to be frank with you. Some things there are things sometimes due to they are happening because you lack the facts, the evidences at hand. You can't base your arguments on that. But I tell you, like just what Governor Rector said, he has now come to understand the least person you expect to see that is involved in this banditry is involved. And he said that, in fact, he has now made it one of his mantra. Whenever he goes to an occasion, an event, he will tell people that don't be surprised, there are informers here wearing traditional attire and having money. So that's to show you the extent of this. And we don't want to begin to bring this out and begin to have these honest conversations with ourselves. The Northwest is sitting on top of gold, and a lot of people are cashing out. All this kidnapping and the killings that are happening here are just a mere distraction now. You understand? I doesn't want to go deep into these issues like that, but on the surface, this is what is happening, Harry, and those at the center, they know this thing is happening. So since you know this is happening, then why not make policies that will legalize this mining? So that people, formal sectors, formal companies can come and, they can go into this mining activities and begin to fish out the bad eggs that are ripping people out. Because that's the only way to do that.
There have been allegations of foreign nationals, being cited in these areas where illegal mining is taking place. There have been allegations of foreign nationals.
No, it's not allegations. There was a time.
Sponsoring the bandits.
Yeah, there was a time. A Chinese company. They were caught at the airport with huge amount of gold from Zamfara. And I think there was one politician that time that came to clear them out. He said, they were his, they were working for him, and he's a big politician. He stays in Zamfara, and he was top of the government then. So this is the situation. There is a certain place deep down in Anka. When you go, it's full of, foreign nationals there. And you wonder, why are the bandits not attacking these guys? They are there, they have places, tents, they are living well, they are living large, and they are just mining their gold. So this is just the ugly reality.
Well, sir, it's really sad. So you have, it's really sad what's going on right now. And you've mentioned some key stakeholders that were not there, like the National Security Advisor. That is a big absence for me. And I believe all arms of security should have been at that event. But probably they have their reasons for not being there, and we'll certainly find out more. But while we wait, for the white paper to come out from that summit on action points that will be taken going forward. Because it's obvious, as you said, this issue is not a state issue. It's something that is national and must have a national approach to it. If it's going to be, effective. It's going to, all the states must collaborate. Every state there must be a synergy, amongst the states working to actually address these things head on. And we're yet to see that kind of collaboration right now. Even without the federal government, the states must collaborate.
Let me tell you something. I have a fixer in Zamfara Anka, and he called me yesterday. We were talking on this issue. He told me a scary, reality that in the next 2 years, if care is not taken, the whole of the communities around Zamfara, the local governments, will be at the hands of bandits. The whole of the entire area, you understand, local government of Zamfara will be under the control of bandits. He said by that time, the number of people that are now joining, the banditry, activities, it's on the rise. A lot of youths are joining them because that's the only option, you understand, for them to survive. And now we have other places.
I recall Vice President Shetima, on being sworn in as Vice President along with President Tinubu, he said, my forte, what I'm saddled with will be tackling insecurity. I will take up the insecurity challenge while President Tinubu focuses on the economy. Have we seen any change since then, or are we too anxious to demand at least a marked difference from what was the norm?
Okay, I think the office of the NSA and the Northwest governors, they are yet to agree on the proper approach to tackle this insecurity. I think that was one of the reasons, maybe the NSA decided not to be part of the whole thing. He believes in the non-kinetic approach, and they believe in the kinetic approach, and that is where there is a big disagreement.
Jamil, do you believe that bandits, kidnappers, and terrorists should be given a soft landing after they perpetrated
No way. You understand? I don't believe that, because they are not the kind of people that you can even invite to the table. They don't even believe. Look, you only apply non-kinetic to people that have a sense of reasoning, that have a certain agenda. You understand? These guys are barbarics. I think, I don't know how to describe these guys to you, but these are not people that you even invite. They don't even understand what they are doing is right or wrong.
How are we not to even suspect that those who are asking for a non-kinetic approach are the moles we are talking about in the system?
Only God knows. Only God knows. You understand? And this is one of the reasons, this is one of the effects, one of the things that affected the fight at the latent stage. At a certain point, we have leaders that were of Fulani descent, and they saw that as like when you unleash, the kinetic approach, you're killing my tribal people. You understand? That is why it became so difficult for Buhari then to accept the fact that these guys are Fulanis and they are the ones doing the killing, because he is Fulani by tribe. You understand? Is a typical Fulani man. The only difference between him and them is that he went to school and he grew up in the city while they live in the forest. That's the only difference. So when you say Fulani, he sees it as a direct attack to him. So that was one of the hurdles. Understand? You can even see from the Yeti Allah group, whenever, even when the bandits, the Fulani bandits were termed as terrorists.
They were given about 100 billion naira during the Buhari administration. So much resources was deployed to them to actually compensate them in spite of the, chaos and conflicts that they had unleashed. And yet still, it doesn't seem as if that has caused any the conflict to recede.
No, it has no effect. The only thing is for the office of the NSA or the vice president to sit with the governors of the Northwest and come to terms on a unified approach to solving this, which is kinetic. That is the language that these bandits can only understand. If they go after these guys, within a short time, those who are willing from the bandits will come out and say, okay, we're tired of this. We want to live a normal life. Then that's when you begin to listen and use the non-kinetic approach of reintegrating these people and peace and reconciliation. But at this stage, there is no way I will sit down and begin to see how I can, bring peace in Zamfara while your same people are in Katsina killing people, farmers, and little children. It doesn't work that way, In fact, I've never seen a country in the whole entire world that sits or grant amnesty or whatever or negotiate with criminals, unless Nigeria. You understand? I've never seen. Why? You understand? I've never seen. I've never heard it.
You need to, Jamil. You need to listen to Sheikh Gumi, Abubakar Gumi. That's his position on the matter, that they must be given amnesty. But that's so much we can take, Jamil. I want to thank you so much for joining us, sharing your thoughts on this very critical meeting that took place in your state. I've been talking about insecurity and how to actually stem the tide. We definitely will see, as you said, we cannot actually ascertain how effective that meeting was until the white paper on it, on action points, comes out. And certainly when it does come out, we hope that we'll be here to discuss what the pointers are and how it will impact on dealing with insecurity. Thank you so much, Jamil.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Harry.
All right, we'll be taking a break now, and we'll be back to bring you the news at the top of the hour. I've been talking with Jamil Mabai. He is journalist and conflict reporter, independent reporter in Katsina State. When we come back, we'll be bringing you the news update. Don't go away.
Stay up to date with LN 24/7. LN 24/7. With news, politics, business, sports, and more on LN 24/7. Where the story goes, we go.
All right, great to have you back. It's time for us to bring you latest developments in the news. President Bola Tinubu has urged Nigeria's army to evolve new strategies
that will prevent violent groups from overrunning the citizens of the country. The President gave the charge while speaking at the Maxwell Kobe Cantonment in Basa local government area in the finale of the week-long 2024 Niger Army Day celebration. Tinubu, who was represented at the event by the Minister of Defense Mohammed Abubakar, disclosed that he has approved the purchase of attack helicopters and other necessary equipment for soldiers to carry out their assignments more proficiently and effectively. Meanwhile, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taid Lagaja, described the week-long Army Day celebration as successful and thanked the President for the strategic guidance and the confidence reposed in the Nigerian Army.
Well, in another story now, the Transmission Company of Nigeria says that the national power grid has been restored following Saturday's collapse. The TCN Public Affairs General Manager Ndidi Mba described the collapse as partial, adding that the incident brings to 3 the partial disturbances, with 1 total disturbance this year. The TCN spokesperson said the grid collapse is suspected to have been triggered by the unexpected tripping of 3 units of a power generating station, which she said suddenly removed 313 megawatts from the grid, causing system instability that led to the loss of bulk supply to a section of the national grid. Meanwhile, electricity consumers have condemned the repeated collapse of the national power grid.
Well, during the Buhari administration, we had a record system collapse of at least 1 every month. Now the Tinubu administration has 3. Let's keep the count and see if President Tinubu will definitely improve on that. Well, still more stories coming to you. The Lagos State government has issued a 48-hour vacation notice to squatters and owners of illegal structures along the Bagada-Bariga drainage channel. The announcement was made by Commissioner for Environment, Water Resources, Tokumbo Wahab on Sunday. Wahab explained that the drainage channel, which serves to deflood the Bariga-Bagada Shuli downstream communities and other environs, has been blocked by squatters and obstructive structures which have significantly contributed to the recent flooding in the area. Wahab added, following the expiration of the eviction notices, Lagos State Ministry of Environment and Water Resources will begin removal of illegal structures to restore proper drainage and mitigate flooding in the area.
Well, from Lagos State, move on to Ogun State, where government has threatened to shut down any market found guilty of improper waste disposal and a dirty environment. The special advisor to the governor and managing director of the Ogun State Waste Management Authority, Abayome Hunye, handed out the threat during a meeting with the executive and members of the Ogun State Association of Market Men and Women in Abeokuta, the state capital. According to him, the present period, when the country is battling to overcome the outbreak of cholera, calls for proper waste disposal and general cleanliness in all markets, as markets are rallying points for the purchase of all commodities such as foodstuffs, provisions and other items. Hunye called on the market men and women to imbibe the spirit of proper waste disposal in their different markets and cooperate with the Ogun State Waste Management Authorities for a waste-free and clean environment.
We hope going forward that the government will not have to wait for such an incident to happen before it does the right thing. Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves now have reached a high of $34.7 billion, according to data obtained from Central Bank of Nigeria CBN website on Sunday. This represents an increase of $110 million from the previous day's figure of $34.5 billion. Now, the reserves have been steadily increasing over the past week, with a total gain of $316 million since July. This growth has been attributed to several factors, including recent increase in oil prices, improved diaspora remittances, and central bank's efforts to stabilize the currency.
The increase in foreign exchange reserve is a positive development for Nigeria's economy as it provides a cushion against external shocks and supports the country's ability to meet its financial obligations.
Well, we're still in business. The Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, has announced the extension of the deadline for registration of all point-of-sale operators, or POS, by additional 60 days. According to the Commission, the extension period, which starts from the 7th of July 2024 to the 5th of September, is to allow operators, especially those in remote areas who might have encountered network glitches, to register. The Commission had earlier in May 2024 given a deadline of 7th July 2024, but in a statement posted on its X handle Sunday, it noted that the registration will now start 7th July 2024 to the 5th of September 2024. This is to give sufficient time to operators, particularly those in remote areas who might have encountered network challenges, to so register and continue with their businesses. The Commission, however, warned that operators who fail or refuse to register at the end of the extended deadline run the risk of losing such businesses and prosecution for aiding and abetting criminal activities.
Right, elsewhere in Africa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Chairman of ECOWAS Council of Ministers, Yusuf Tuga, stated that the new ECOWAS headquarters, building known as the Eye of West Africa, is poised to become a beacon of hope embodying the shared values and heritage of West Africa. Construction, which started in November 2022, is scheduled to be completed and handed over by February 2025. A statement issued by ECOWAS Sunday noted that the minister spoke after a meeting at the construction site of the new ECOWAS headquarters in Abuja. While becoming participants, the Vice President of the ECOWAS Commission expressed appreciation of ECOWAS institutions to Nigeria for the land provided, the duty waivers granted, development permits facilitated, and all other supports towards the commencement of the construction of the new ECOWAS headquarters site. All right, I believe with that we want to say thank you for staying with us on our news update here on This Morning on LN 24/7. You can follow us as well on our social media platforms at Facebook, X, and Instagram. And don't forget, we're still at www.ln247.news, channel 36 UHF and 35 UHF Abuja. So much in store. Will join us again after the break. We want to look at another discussion talking about the controversial Samoa Agreement that Nigeria signed. What did Nigeria actually sign? We'll find out after this moment.
Stay up to date with LN 24/7. LN 24/7. With news, politics, business, sports, and more on LN 24/7, where the story goes, we go.
LN 24/7 is first of all a news station.
We'll continue with updates from the just concluded governorship
in the southeast has raised questions if INEC will be able to conduct elections.
With a core team of over 40 correspondents spread across Nigeria.
Nigeria is set to take its place.
The unions of aviation workers are out here protesting.
And affiliates in Africa, Europe, America, and Asia. We give you news as it breaks from the perspective you can trust.
LN 24/7 News, where the story goes, we go.
Ellen 24/7 lights up your day with unbeatable shows that guarantees absolute access to stories that revolves around politics, entertainment, and sports. Breaking news, plus detailed reports and analysis. At Ellen 24/7, where the story goes, we go.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues? Order. The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now on Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on Ellen 24/7.
Catch the thrills, and all passion of world's biggest sports fiesta. From July the 26th to August 11th, 2024 on Ellen 24/7 Network. Olympic 2024 game live on Ellen 24/7. Watch all the action as Nigerian stars shine the glory. Advert placement and sponsorship. Call these numbers: 081-367-99969, 070-542-81181, and 0802-332-2032. France 2024 Olympics. Games wide open. Faster. Higher. Stronger. Ellen 24/7, where the news goes, we go.
All right, great to have you back. You're still watching this morning, and I hope your morning has been fantastic so far. Your being here means all to us right now on the show, and we're still moving on, this time with our next discussion. We want to look at the controversial Samoa Agreement, controversy over the $150 billion Samoa Agreement. And the question posed, what Nigeria signed? What did Nigeria actually sign? There's been so much conundrum and dust raised, over what Nigeria signed. Well, there have been responses from these allegations that have been made against the federal government. The federal government has vowed to sue the newspaper that carried the story, Daily Trust, over the reports. Now, the federal government said it will deploy all its legal means to seek redress against one of Nigeria's leading newspapers, Daily Trust, over misleading publication pushed out to suggest that government has signed an agreement to legitimize LGBTQ in the country. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, at an emergency media briefing in Abuja, said series of falsehoods published by Daily Trust newspaper over the time is calculated attempt to set the country on the path of revolution and unrest. That's the statement he made on that. Minister of Information, on his Twitter X handle, if we can go there to his Twitter and X handle, said a declaration dated 26 June 2024
clarifying its understanding and context of agreement within its jurisdiction to the effect that any provision that is inconsistent with the laws of Nigeria shall be invalid. It is instructive to note that there is an existing legislation against same-sex relationship in Nigeria enacted in 2014. It is necessary to assure Nigerians that the President Bola Tinubu administration, being a rule-based government, will not enter into any international agreement that will be detrimental to the interest of the country and its citizens. In negotiating the agreement, our officials strictly followed mandates exchanged in 2018 between the EU and OACPs for the process. Now, the SOMO agreement is nothing but a vital legal framework for cooperation between the OACPs and the European Union to promote sustainable development, fight climate change and its effects, generate investment opportunities, and foster collaboration among OACP member states at the international stage. And finally, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, was called in to explain what Nigeria signed, which was, he said, to boost food security and inclusive economic development, among others. I mean, we shouldn't be angry at this, should we? Based on what the minister has said, this should be a welcome development. You know, but the question is, especially in these climes, do we really understand what international diplomacy is about? Is there any free meal anywhere? If I may ask my guests, forgive my, my manners. Let me introduce my guest on the show. Justice Ogena, the legal practitioner, is here joining us, to make this life easy for me today on the show. Justice.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, when these legal issues come in, you're the handy man, and I have more confidence, to ride on the story. Some things we need to clarify. There are so many angles to this. So many stakeholders have spoken. Some have said we have a prevailing, constitution that cannot be overridden by any external agreements. Some said, look, when you make an international agreement, there are conditions from the international scene you must comply with, because you're doing that on behalf of your nation. So it brings in, it's a very naughty affair. So you being here, I'll pass that burden on to you. But let me just read from the website of the EU, if you have it up there. It says, on the 10th of April 2024, the European Parliament gave its consent, to the conclusion of a new partnership agreement between the EU, there you have it, and its member states of the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States. Now, that's what they call the OACPs. Now, the 15th November 2023 signing ceremony took place in Apia, capital, Pacific Islands of Samoa. The agreement is therefore referred to as the Samoa Agreement, owing to the multiple negotiation levels, the COVID crisis and difficulties in agreeing sensitive issues such as migration management. And this is what this is one thing that a lot of us don't understand. The nomenclature, the language at that level is different from what is domiciled back here at home. The sexual and reproductive health rights, according to professionals in this area, means something totally different. Now, we'll talk more about that. It took more than 2 years before the negotiations initialed the text of the renewed partnership agreement, and so on and so forth. So, Justice, great to have you once more. I am here, pulling my hand first, How do we make, the government is saying they're going to sue, they're going to sue, they're huffing and puffing. What did Nigeria actually sign? Do you have any idea of what Nigeria signed in this matter, based on what analysts have said? Okay, should I start with they are suing, because that's my concern. The thing is, the rule in journalism is publish and be damned. So because of that, the bar is lowered because of the constraint of time
and the fact of people being informed.
Breaking the story.
Breaking the story as early as possible, people being informed as early as possible. The bar is lowered for members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, for journalists and media houses. So it may be hard for the government to succeed in that kind of suit, because especially when they establish
that's very reassuring.
Yeah,
Thank you very
yeah. Especially when they establish that they didn't do malafide. So, and as much as possible, the courts they defer to the side of journalism and the side of citizens. As much as possible, they don't uphold the side of the government when it comes to suits like this. So that there will be more freedom for members of the fourth level of government.
Because of the critical role they play.
Because of the extremely critical role they play. Because it's impossible for me to know what's happening in Aso Rock. It's impossible for me to physically know what's happening in the United States or in the United Nations. I leave it to you. And I know that you are a human being. You are despite the fact that you are putting in your best efforts to ensure that the information is as accurate as it can possibly be.
Especially when getting information in these claims like a camel going through the eye of a needle.
It's almost impossible.
With the Freedom of Information bill. So if we didn't even have that bill, how would it
we have it, but it is almost not implemented.
How would it be? That's what I'm saying. We have that bill and it's like this.
Yes.
If we didn't have it, how would it be? We'd be working with in the dark.
Yeah, so I want to encourage not just Daily Trust, I want to encourage you
Thank you, I am encouraged right
to
now.
continue your work and be sure that the government won't carry the day in that respect. That said, what's that issue really now?
Let me break it down.
Okay.
The Samoa Agreement signed on 15 November, framework between 27 countries of the European Union and 79 countries of Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States. The agreement also has a trade component of $150 billion. Currently, 46 OACP countries and 27 EU countries have signed it. For agreement to be fully implemented, all 27 EU members must sign. Also, Nigeria has signed. It didn't sign last year. Okay. Fumi Adebayo wrote an article. It is sad that Tinubu government has resorted to intimidating, threatening and blackmailing individuals and media for exercising constitutional right to freedom of expression, commenting on this agreement. Thank you, Justice, for clarifying that. That gives us a sigh of relief. Section 29(5) of that agreement, the parties shall, if you can have that on the screen, please. The parties shall support universal access to sexual and reproductive health commodities and health care services, including for family planning, information and education, and integration of reproductive health into national strategies and programs. Now, according to their definition, they had a different definition of what reproductive health is.
Absolutely. Not just reproductive health, sexual health.
Thank you, sir.
And we don't know.
We don't know these things.
See, the way I see in Nigerian people in authority or Nigerian legislators, I see them the way Americans see their senators when it comes to, they have the oversight powers.
All they are saying is that $150 billion.
Yes, the American legislators have oversight powers. So in their oversight powers, they try to implement it they try to interrogate a person like Mark Zuckerberg, and Jack Dorsey at the time, now Elon Musk for Twitter and all. And what Americans saw was that even our legislators are not smart enough. They don't even know what is happening in the social media space enough to be able to interrogate these issues. That's what's happening in Nigeria. Nigerian legislators, Nigerian persons in government, especially at the highest level, they don't even know what's happening in those countries. Sexual and reproductive health in those countries means that a 5-year-old
Thank you, sir.
can go to a medical doctor and tell a medical doctor, a 5-year-old boy, and tell the medical doctor that I'm feeling like a girl. A boy can approach the medical services and say, I'm a girl, I'm inherently a girl. So the medical services people will start pummeling them. And you don't know that the orientation came from the boy being bombarded with wrong information while in school.
Deliberately.
Deliberately, systematically, constructively while in school. They approached the medical doctor. And I'm telling you of a live situation. A man took his son in Canada to a medical doctor because the son was complaining of having some issues. While in consultation with the son in the medical room, they had conversations, the son and the medical doctor. Then the son came out to tell the father that, sorry, I've decided to change my sex. Then the father said, you cannot. I don't give my consent. The doctor, medical doctor, overrode the father. Overrode the father. The father was prosecuted. Why? Because they said that child has sexual sexual rights to be able to change his sex. And that is what sexual and reproductive rights mean there.
At that level.
At that level. So when we are signing, we are not signing based on our interpretation, because our interpretation is parochial. If you also go back to the provision of Section 2, Article 2.5 of that same law, it talks about gender equality. When we say gender equality in Nigeria, it means male and female.
Female, exactly.
In the US, in Europe, it's more than 100. There are more than 100 genders. That's why they talk about LGBTQ+.
On Facebook, you have more than 50 genders. You know, these days, when you're signing, when you're filling some international forms, there are different genders for you to.
It's diary. Somebody was sending me an email.
I was filling a form and it said, "Are you male, female, queer?" And then, or do you want to?
You have run out of. They have actually run out. You can't remember how many genders there are, and you must respect them in that society. Because somebody sent me a mail from Canada, and the person was telling me their preferred pronoun. It's already attached to all
their preferred pronouns.
Their preferred pronouns. You can be talking to a female and you should know that, okay, the pronoun is they, them. The pronoun is he. You must refer to her as he said, not she said. Because if you say she said, you can lose your job. And things like that. So there is a serious misunderstanding or lack of understanding of the purport of these wordings in these laws. So our legislators, the people in power, likely do not understand this at all. I don't blame them. I don't blame them. So when Nigerians, especially of our own ilk, of our own generation, are saying that, sorry, the way you understand this thing is different from the way it actually is in those societies, you have to cut us the slack.
You know, the minister came out and, you know, he was very
puffing and bluffing,
huffing and puffing and saying, look, you guys, I mean, how could we? We know our cultural values, and very rightfully so. But, sir, I think you really don't understand the nomenclature at that level. You need to, be schooled. I mean, how come this issue has been raised over the years before Nigeria signed it? Because we didn't sign it last year. The Buhari administration did not sign it. Probably because of the awareness that was raised, But this reminds me of the pre-colonial era, where the colonialists came with the mirror and you drink. They come with inducements. Yeah. They come with beautiful proposals to boost your economy. But in this climate, there is no free meal. It's left for us as human beings, as Africans, to ask what is in it for you?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And African leaders must be alive to the fact that AIDS will take us nowhere. Economic AIDS will take us nowhere. It will always make us lackeys. We'll always be subject to economic hitmen and utter manipulation from whichever person is the puppet master that is pulling the strings of us as puppets. We must take a page out of the book of China. The way they decided to strongly be in charge of their economy to the point where they are now the second economy in this world, and they are threats, because it's been said that by 2030 they are going to become #1. They did not become that way because they were lackeys and they were just taking aids here, aids there, and signing off their destinies away and the destinies of their citizens.
I beg to ask, is that how the Asian tigers, got to where they are?
You understand? As much as possible, we have to take the tough decisions solely and fully in the interest of our own economy. We cannot just IMF this today, World Bank this tomorrow, and World Trade Organization this the day after tomorrow. We cannot just be totally subject to Harvard grads that are carrying certificates and briefcases about.
Okay, Justice, let's give some more insights to this controversial Samoa deal to our viewers. Nigerian delegates who participate in United Nations deliberations will readily attest that the phrase gender equality is a Trojan horse for deceptively bringing in sorts of immoralities into a country. Now, in any case, the appropriate word is sex, not gender.
Yes.
That's what the experts who understand these things say. The appropriate word is sex, not gender.
Yes.
This is why Section 42, Section 1 of the Nigerian Constitution talks about sex.
Yes.
And not gender.
You can't discriminate based on sex.
You can't discriminate on sex.
Yes.
Okay,
they
so
didn't use
they
gender.
didn't use sex.
Yes.
They didn't use
They
sex.
use gender.
They use gender. They don't use sex.
And as much as possible, we must also note that the word sex has even taken a hit. It has almost been totally eradicated in the West. Because even as a biologist,
to drive this agenda,
to drive the agenda,
you must remove sex from the matter.
First, you must bring two words that are similar and confuse it to the point where after there is enough confusion, you can now phase out the other. And that's what has happened in the West generally. The word sex has been phased out so that gender, which they call a social construct, can now carry the day, can fly. And that is why there are more than 100. How are they even coping?
It's amazing. It's amazing how they're raising their kids these days. Now, the write-up goes on to say, gender connotes homosexuality, lesbianism, transgenderism, you name it, and abortions. Section 42, Section 1 of the 1999 Constitution stipulates that no citizen of Nigeria should be discriminated against on ground of his or her sex, ethnic group, place of origin, religion, or political opinion. Nothing can be more apt than that. Now, the section protects all women and men from discrimination on the grounds of their sex, ethnic group, place of origin. Okay, let's go to the next step. But gender is now given a social construct. You said that.
Yes.
You said that.
Yes.
Okay. So, looking at looking at all this, okay, then there comes Article 29.5 states, okay, the parties shall support universal access to sexual and reproductive health care services. That's what you talked about.
You have a right to your sex. You have a right to any sex you wish to. So, but the challenge with that is, and there is irreversible harm being done to persons who are confused. In America, the irony is, at 18, before 18, you are not considered smart enough to be able to get a driver's license, or to be able to take alcohol, or to be able to smoke. But at 5, you can choose. You can make irreversible.
At 5, you cannot vote.
You can't vote. You can make irreversible life decisions. And there are so many studies that show that there is an unusual level of suicide in that amongst
which are kept underground,
which are totally suppressed. You can't see those data because they know that if you see those data, it will show the absolute emptiness in their argument. And that's why, as much as possible, also watch out. There will be lawyers in Nigeria who will start angling for human rights. All humans.
Justice. We still have a problem of the proverbial house slave.
Yes.
The house slave. Those that like what we found during COVID, where doctors
chose to, fly the false narrative because of the inducements that we're getting. We'll see now Anthony Fauci being disgraced in public. He's taking the fall. He's the fall guy for it. But for this to fly, other doctors too had to, other professionals too had to give false, reports on this issue. In this issue now, you find the issue of, before even the issue of LGBT could fly, for somebody, a young person to say, who was born sexually a male or female, to say, I am not a male or I'm not a female. The medical society too must be in
falling in line
with that and say, look, there's a scientific explanation for this. So it's not going to. Sadly, because there is a huge divide in science now, between those who are pro-life, let me put it, and those who are pro-choice. It's sad. So right now, this is flying because of that, and these are people can find, collaborators to support this false.
Yes, we're just going to a certain echo chamber where whatever it is you say is being ringed aloud, so that you will now convince yourself eventually that you are right. We are going
where scientists, professors who are seasoned professors are being cracked down and being, victimized.
They lose their jobs.
Standing here to their profession are being silenced.
It's absolutely painful. And that's why, back to this conversation, you also mentioned earlier that what's the role of the extant laws and extant laws? We have a law on the books.
Do you think that this will fly? Considering we have a constitution in place, and we have elected officers, constitutionally elected officers, to promulgate laws, and then can another law? Because sadly, let me point this out. On the ground, we have investigated and found out that some of our schools are actually, some of public schools are implementing this comprehensive sexuality education, which comes from the European Union and all of this on the ground. So this actually, according to experts, gives them the right now to demand reports from Nigeria.
Yes, for me, I won't be shocked, because a lot of Nigerians too, sometimes our tastes is for foreign things. There are schools that are foreign, European-based, UK-based, American-based, that are localized in Nigeria. I won't be shocked if they are extending their curricula in full and implementing it in Nigeria. So I won't be shocked at all. Aside from those ones that are vassals of their American or Western counterparts, there are also Nigerian, fully 100% Nigerian schools that are trying to extrapolate and copy the standard abroad. So I won't be shocked too if they are also implementing. We also have our public schools. Lawyers have, my friend Sonny Kowusi, keeps going back to court repetitively.
I've been with him on this case too.
Almost like a stubborn goat in the manner of speaking.
It takes a lot of passion.
It takes a lot of passion. It takes a lot of strength.
He's not making any money from that. Rather, it's a distraction.
He has practically devoted a lot of years to it, and I'm very, very proud of him for that, because it just shows that I'm talking about is fighting government schools. Not just government schools in the southwest, abominably. Even government schools in the north.
Wow.
Yes, so he's fighting Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, and one other ministry, in order to ensure that they reverse course on this issue. But for persons like that, and for other organizations like that, and media houses like this, that keep putting this matter on the front burner, a lot would have happened behind us. And that's why we have to keep going back to the biblical scripture that talks about the devil came to plant evil seeds while men slept. So we can't sleep on our oars. We have to keep talking about this. And you talked about, can this happen while we have persons constitutionally voted to be in power? Are they not the ones signing it? It is the persons in power that are actually practically signing this thing and are trying to implement it. Of course, sometimes we may want to say we really need out a piece of the 150 billion. But sometimes also it is for their own private interest that they do this. So because of that, we just must be at alert and ensure that at no point do we allow them succeed in any in any of these their agenda. So there's a 2014 law that's against this kind of. In fact, essentially, 2014 law doesn't touch on this.
Okay.
It doesn't really touch on this. It doesn't really touch on this, especially the influencing our children through cartoons, through school teachers and all, through the movies they see, not just the children, even adults.
Do you think the NBC and Broadcasting Corporation
is taking them to the cleaners too.
Even equipped
it's taking NBC to task now. Is really
equipped to deal with the strategies that are being deployed? Have they repositioned themselves for the challenges
enough? That's number one. Number two is, are they educated enough to be able to spot it when they see it? Sometimes it's as innocuous as an umbrella. You keep seeing on the movies, they just introduce it to you in tacit ways. You see different colors of the rainbow.
And interestingly, organizations and non-government NGOs like Foundation for African Cultural Heritage are there to give you free these trainings. They are not even asking for money, for you for the sake of Nigerian children.
Mr. Henry, Mr. Williams, let me tell you how trainings work with civil servants. Pay for the training, send them to the UK. Wow. They won't go. Wow. They won't go for the seminars. They will take the opportunity. Hey, my friend, where are you now? I'm in UK. You go and spend this thing, you go and spend time here, go and spend time here. You have to give them serious ESTA codes, and you have to hold their feet to the fire to ensure that they actually go for those conferences. They sit in those conferences. You set exams for them. Yeah. When they come back to ensure that they actually sat in those conferences, because it is the ESTA codes they are looking for, it is the juicy things that they are looking for, and it's unfortunately so. They just want to count, I've attended this conference, I've attended that conference. Sometimes we are facilitators in conferences that are organized by government, and they won't sit. Sometimes they just sit, they are not listening. It's unfortunate that majority of them are like that. It's not that all of them are like that. True. So those are, again, some of the things that we have to also look into. Check what of our national conference? What happened in the last national conference? A lot of them were sleeping. A lot of them were sleeping. A lot of them were sleeping. A lot of them were just gallivanting.
Being paid to sleep.
Yeah. So sometimes that's a national tragedy that we find ourselves in, because the orientation that even the people who are in the workforce of the government have, because the ones that
have the burden you and I have
at all. There's no pressure on them to be excellent. Sometimes too, we see to a large extent too, you don't get to blame them, because the people that come to lead them, the politicians that eventually come to lead them in service, they are not also forthright people. They are not there really to work. So where are they going to learn how to be hardworking from? So we have to check our bureaucracy and fix the bureaucracy in order to ensure that a lot of things change, because they are really custodians of things that are very crucial.
They are gatekeepers.
They are gatekeepers. Things that are very crucial to the average Nigerian. Sometimes they go out there and they just sign things that...
And I dare say that we had war. We had war. There's a war going on. It's not the war of dropping bombs. It's a war of control. If I can control you, I can control everything.
If I can impose my ideology on you,
if I can
impose my culture on you, obliterate your culture, then
you have no identity. Then you can toe my line.
That has always been the way of the world, especially when the world became two huge powers, the Americans and the USSR. Of course, China too is now coming into the mix and stamping its feet. And that's where we started having the non-aligned movements from, which Nigeria said is subscribed to. But what are we seeing in practice? We are just taking hook, line and sinker what the West is saying. We are not even sieving it. We are not removing the wheat from the chaff.
I mean, what is the difference between us and the likes of the Saudi Arabians, the Arabs, who, like in the World Cup, they try to fly that kite of the LGBTQ, and immediately they put their foot ground, and I wanted to see what the reaction of the so-called international community was. They actually fell in line.
They have to fall in line. It's very, very easy for them to fall in line for two reasons. First, Qatar will not bargain with its culture, because the government of Qatar knows that, government of Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they know that their very existence in government is owed to the fact that they are sacrosanct with their culture, even though it looks like they are eroding it a bit by bit now. And I say that because of Saudi Arabia, that just allowed alcohol to be sold in a couple of places. But LGBTQ,
and you're not going to, they're not owing you anything. They're not coming to you to beg for funds to
and that's the second pillar. That's the second reason why they are slush with funds.
You have nothing on them.
In fact, America is owing them, because they have,
exactly.
America is a debt country. They are owing more than $30 trillion. And they are owing China, they are owing countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia that have a surplus, lodged in their bank accounts. So you can't bully them. Saudi Arabia can turn off the tap on oil and destroy your politics and destroy your society and destroy your economy.
Like they did now, decide to trade their oil in a different currency and not trade in the dollar.
Yeah, they also did it in 1979 during the Olympics time, when they practically, I think they were the ones that made this person lose his election at the time, Jimmy Carter or something, when they turned the tap off on oil and made America come to his knees and back to the table. They can always do it again. And that's why you hear Donald Trump insult Muslims and insult Saudi Arabia before taking office, and immediately he takes office, the first place he rushes to is Saudi Arabia.
We need to commend the likes of the former President Goodluck Jonathan when he refused to kowtow to America during the Obama regime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are costs to it. It's part of the reasons why he lost the election. And we must be willing to sacrifice, we must be willing to take the fall, take the bullet for this fight, because as I think Frank Sinatra said, what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not. To say the things he truly feels, and not just the words of one who kneels. So we must be able to stand and say, this is what I stand for, and this is what I will die for. And that's why in the annals of our history, Goodluck Jonathan will always have his name etched in gold as one person that didn't, for self-ambition, let the country go into tatters.
Fantastic. Well, as we wind down on this matter, I think our viewers have a better idea of what Nigeria signed, don't they, Justice?
Yes,
what did we sign? What did we sign?
We signed practically the interpretation of gender equality in Europe, which is totally different from what we have in our country. And until we go back to put riders and reinterpretation to the agreement, it means we are bound. But again, we are bound, we will be fully bound when our legislature, pursuant to Section 12 of our Constitution, now eventually sign it into our laws. But now it's just in the offing, and it can affect policy. It may not be able to affect laws, but it can affect policy, and that's their aim.
We didn't have time to even talk about, within that document, the issue of climate change again coming up. Climate change, really, in Africa, in Nigeria, where you have arable land, we're talking about climate change. What is the underlying issue in that climate change? For instance, you can see us now being pushed away from our resources like oil, saying we must go electric, we must go hybrid. And these are part of the policies, regardless of the fact that they still have enough of these resources in the soil.
The president went to Saudi Arabia with how many delegates the other time, like 3 months or 5 months
How
ago.
many private jets landed there?
You understand, still for climate change.
So our leaders must really wake up.
And we are not the ones polluting the climate. It's China and the US.
In the pollution, Africa accounts for less than 2% of this, pollution that they're talking about.
They should start by healing themselves.
Well, Justice, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Great having you on the program. Well, that's where we will leave the discussion. Now, just my guest said Nigeria signed, okay. It signed, what it signed was the European Union's interpretation. And so that means it's binding on us. And well, until our legislators now domicile the laws of that document in Nigeria. So we'll be waiting for them there to say, no, you can't do that, because we need to revisit that document and need to go and looking at the fine lines and let the European Union know that we are not for this in Nigeria. Well, thank you, and for all of you who stayed with us from the beginning of the program, I say big thank you, okay, and do expect that we'll join you bright and early tomorrow morning. My name is Henry Williams, and as I always say, only Nigerians can build Nigeria. See you same time, bright and early tomorrow. God bless you.